welcome to our focus and clarity, or our clarity and focus session here at Consulting Unleashed. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that it's really kind of important. I have a different slant on how this concept works. And the idea here is looking at the types of questions that we're asking to kind of, one, understand how businesses work, and what I need to know to be able to help a business. So I want to talk about this idea, or this concept of the types of questions that we walk ourselves into, because I believe people don't ask enough questions. That's probably the biggest reason why. If I want to think about what I'm talking about here today, we do not ask enough questions. We don't get enough information. Oftentimes when I talk to consultants, and I'm asking questions and they go, oh, didn't even think to ask that, or I haven't gone back, or I need to go back to the client and ask that question. And some of these questions are pretty important, and they're also very fundamental to be able to put you in a position where you can actually help a client. So what I wanted to talk about was, I guess if I look at it from my perspective, the kind of questions that I want to have answers to, so that I know that I could be able to help a client with my marketing solutions. So it doesn't matter if they do Facebook ads, it doesn't matter if they do Adwords campaigns, PPC, it doesn't matter what specific type of service I'm providing. I would actually ask these same questions to everyone, because there are the things that I need to know from a business point of view, or to understand business, is I need to understand from the point of view of how things work in their industry. If I can understand what's going on in how a business operates, then it's going to give me a much more better insight into how I can serve and how I can help. And what most people do is they try to jump in, or they assume that people do certain things certain ways, or they run their businesses certain ways. And I've found that the more curious I am, the better the results I can deliver in terms of understanding people in the marketplace. So to me, I personally believe people don't ask enough questions at all. I also believe that people aren't asking the right questions to get the answers they're looking for. And another thing that I do understand is you're not thinking strategically enough. We don't think strategically enough. And so this is why I want to know as much as I can in a very brief, short space of time. And some of the questions I often ask, some people might feel they're a little bit invasive or intrusive. And some people might feel that asking these sorts of questions may not get the result that you're looking for, or may even alienate you. But what I'm going to share with you is not only about the types of questions that I ask, but also why I ask those questions, and why people are so willing and ready to give their answers. Now, if I don't get a specific answer, I reframe the question in a way that it makes it easy for the person to actually give me an answer, right? Now, one of the things that we teach in Consulting Champions, we have this thing called the Profit Builder. And in a Profit Builder, it's a questionnaire. And it's asked, this questionnaire, or it asks a series of questions. It's about 50 questions that we ask. And after these 50 questions that we ask, we have a really good understanding of what's going on in the business from a client and customer and marketing perspective. We have a very clear understanding of how the business acquires customers. We have a very clear understanding of what they're charging for their services. We have a very clear understanding of what their conversion rates are. And we also have a very clear understanding of where they're heading to and where the opportunities are. Because in the types of questions we ask in Profit Builder and Consulting Champions, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help the business understand that there are some gaps that need to be filled. And the best place to fill those gaps is where you can demonstrate based on what's going on in their business. So rather than me saying, hey, this is what you need to do, they start to see from the point of view, say, hey, we need to make some changes. We need to do things differently. So I'm going to go through very quickly what I need to know. So I'm going to walk you through this process. Just so we are all cool here, and I know we've got a whole bunch of people jumping on here. Just want to know, if you can hear me and see me clearly, just type 1 on the keyboard, and then we'll get started. Just type 1 on your keyboard if you can hear me, see me clearly, everything's coming across fine. Just type 1 on the keyboard. Felix, thank you. John, thank you. Mark, thank you. All right, so we've got a few people who can see me, feel me. Most people aren't even bothering, but that's cool. Julie Murr, good to see you here. Nice to have you here on the call. Chris, good to see you here. We're a whole bunch of people. Samantha, good to see you here. Awesome. All right, so let's get into the things that I want to know from a question point of view. Now, if you take what I share with you, this is going to give you a much better insight to be able to help people in business. So, 35 years of asking millions of questions, right? I've kind of boiled it down to some key questions that give me a better understanding of how businesses work, and so that I can assess very quickly and then provide a solution. So if you want to be able to help businesses, these are the critical things that you want to understand. I want to understand why the owner or the founder or the person who's in this business, why they got into this business first. So one of my fundamental questions, and it's a bit of a rapport build, say, look, what got you into this business, right? Why this industry? Why those niches? Why this product? Why this service, right? Love to just understand what got you into this, right? This is a rapport builder, right? The second thing that I want to do, the second question is, what do you love about this business? What do you love about the industry? What do you love about this business? What's the thing that you like about this business, right? So let them, the idea is to let them talk. The person who asks the questions generally controls the conversation. The person answering the question is being guided through that process. But the person answering is doing more talking than the person asking. And sometimes the ratio, if you want to close a deal, it should be 25% you asking questions, and then 75% them doing all the talking. That's the ratio you want to be doing. What most people do is they spend 75% of the time talking and only 25% of the time asking. And if you're talking, sometimes you find yourself that you are telling people rather than sharing or actually engaging. So I can swing to both ideas or both ways of the concept of asking questions. I would prefer to ask a lot more questions and have them do a lot more talking than me, right, do the talking. I want them to open up, right? So first couple of questions: what got you into this thing, right? What is it? What got you started? I want to know a little bit of backstory, a bit of history, a bit of rapport. Most people never hear that question. They never get asked what got you into this business, right? So it's a really nice question to ask. The second question is, what do you like about this business? What do you like about what's going on? What do you like about your clients? What do you like about the product or the service you deliver? What do you like about the people that you work with? What do you like about it? The reason why I asked that second question of what do you like about it is they open up. They start talking about things that they like. And if they start talking about things they like, they get lighter, they get animated in that process, right? Why did you get into this? What do you like about this? About this and this and this, and let them talk, right? This gives you an understanding of where their head's at, right? Then we're going to transfer into what you don't like about this business. So what do you hate about this business, right? And sometimes the hate thing is where you really want to listen, right? What do you hate about this business? This is where you want to listen, right? They might sit there and say, you know what? I'm sick and tired of going over the same thing. We're constantly having to customize. We're constantly having to do great things like, oh, you're always customizing. You're always, so think about what don't you like about this business? What do you hate? Hate is a very strong and emotional word. If I can find out what you hate, right? I got a zinger. I got a button presser, right? And I've also got a segue or an area that we may have a challenge or a problem with, right? So these are the top three questions I ask. What got you in here? What do you like about this business? What don't you like about this business? What do you hate about this business? Now, to get to this conversation, right? I'm just going to leap back one moment to get into this conversation. This is what I often say to people if I meet a stranger or if I talk to somebody I don't know. I say to people, look, I'm in the business of helping people improve and develop their businesses, and I tend to be a little bit curious. And just so I like having some really interesting conversations, and I'm really interested in how businesses are run and how people who run them, how people are in them, operate. And so for me, I'm just I really love to take this time. Do you mind if we have a little conversation, a little bit about you, your business, what you like, what you don't like, just so I can get understanding of what's going on. So for me, I'd love to have this conversation, I've never had a person say no. They've gone, oh yeah, okay, you're interested in my business, right? Great, right? So what got you into it? What do you like about it? What do you hate about it, right? And they'll tell you, like, we hate this, and we hate this, and we hate this, and we hate this, right? Next question I might ask is, moving forward, what do you think the most important thing to you that is going to make the impact on growing the business? What area do you think is going to make the most contribution or the most impact that needs to be worked on? What do you believe that is? And so they might go, I believe that, we need to get really clear, or we need to shift our direction in how we target our clients. We need to make sure that we think about our business from a more strategic perspective rather than reactive perspective. We need to look at our systems and our processes. We need to look at extending lines of product. We need to look at our pricing structures and strategies to make sure we maximize margins. We need to look at, the key thing is we need to hire the right people for a key part of our business growth. We're looking to acquire to scale, or they might turn around and say, well, the thing is we need to consolidate, we need to get clear, we need to perhaps cut the fat and focus on the things that are most important to the business. So when you're asking that question, in your opinion, most important thing, the things that that must be worked on, that must be improved, and obviously to get you to where you want to go, what do you think those things are? And you allow that person to just spill their guts. The beautiful thing about this question, they're going to talk about the things that are really important. And if they're really important to them, they're going to become really important to you. Right? So you need to be mindful of what this important thing is, right? So you want to take notes. And here's another thing. So segue, if I'm taking notes, like if I'm having this conversation verbally, I'm making a mental note of what's going on. And the way I make a mental note is I tend to repeat the answers back to the person I'm speaking to. So that's really cool. You got started in this business because you hated the guy you worked for, and you said you can do a better job, and you just decided to start. That's a cool story. Yeah, that's essentially what happened. Okay, great. And you love this about your business. You love the product, the service. I get it, right? People, you understand there's an opportunity. You got into this, great. And you hate customers. Mm-hmm. Some people hate their customers, right? I used to say this quote, like, sometimes you got to love, sometimes you got to love the people you hate, right? Sometimes that might be a representation of people who are in your sphere or friends. There's that person that you got to love to hate, or that you hate to love, right? Unfortunately, sometimes you're gonna have to love people that aren't great, right? So some people think their customers are terrible. In my head, okay, great, targeting the wrong customers. I'm keeping note of that. So you said, no, I don't hate my customers. I just hate the difficult ones. Oh, great. So tell me about the ones that aren't difficult, right? Well, the ones that aren't difficult do this and this and this and this. So I'm feeding back the information that I'm getting from the person who is giving me that information when I'm asking these questions. And if I can feed back, I'm going to get a much better connection, because what's going to happen is they're going to hear that I am hearing them. They are going to hear that I'm hearing them and voicing their words back to them. So the idea of this concept of asking questions is, Stephen Covey writes it in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He writes in his book, seek to understand first, and then seek to be understood. So by me repeating that person, repeating the statements that they've made to the answers to the question they've given, I am seeking to understand them first and letting them know that I am hearing them. I heard what they said, and I am letting them know that I understand, right? This is an incredibly powerful rapport building tactic, right? So let's recap. Let's get this straight. This is what you said. This is what you said. This is what you said. Is there anything else in that? And that's an important question. Is there anything else that you'd love to add to that? No, I think we've got it covered. Or, oh, this thing here. Great. Oh, and this thing, right? This is a very powerful way of engaging people through that process. So once we've gone through what you think is most important, so listen, businesses kind of have 3 fundamental things, right? How they acquire their customers, how they maximize the revenue and the profitability of business, and how they keep those customers buying or keep those customers referring other customers. If we were to look at the silo of acquisition, right? What's going on for you right now? Are you hitting your targets? Are you hitting your revenues? Are you attracting as many clients as you'd like into the business? And I know that's a loaded question, right? So what's going on from the acquisition point of view? And they go, yeah, well, we're getting, we get lots of customers, we get lots of referrals. And so, okay, great. You're talking about referrals. What percentage of your business might come from word of mouth? And they'll say, well, we get at least 40 of, we're really good at what we do. Customers love us. We get a 40% referral rate from our clients. So 40% of your business. So if you look at that margin of 40%, what does 40% represent revenue-wise to the business? Like just approximately, right? And they'll go, yeah, well, 40% of a business are referrals. That's probably, that's $1 million worth of business, right? So they're telling you that they're essentially a $3 million business, $3.5 million business. If 40% of your business is represented by referrals and $1 million worth of revenue is generated by referrals, I'm saying, wow, that's $1 million worth of revenue. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect the revenue to the thing that is adding to their business. I want them to see for the first time, maybe, wow, that's $1 million of business we get referrals. We have no control. And so the next question I might ask is, do you have any systems in place to generate those referrals? Like, do you have acknowledgement systems, strategic alliance partnerships? How do you get all these referrals? Oh, a lot of our customers just like us and they just keep sending people to us. So every month you're getting $100,000 worth of referrals. Is that much? Or are you getting, like, one month you might make 50, next month oh, I don't know. I've never really thought about it that way. Okay. So, okay, great. So no system referrals, but 130 business come referrals, that's $1 million worth of revenue. Wow, that's pretty huge. You're doing a fantastic job. But the cool thing would be is, imagine if we put some systems into place where, what if we could double the referral rate? You know, what if we were to add another $1 million worth of revenue just by putting systems and strategy in place just to double the referral rate? Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, that'd be cool. Now, you can see what I've just done there. I've asked a question about a key area. I've explored why that key area was important. I've attached it to how much that's worth to the business. And now we've got a figure out there and said, hey, what if we actually got more referrals? We don't ask for them now, but if we ask for them, will we get more? Could we double the referral rate? And the guy goes, yeah, we could easily double the referral rate. Wow, that's another $1 million worth of business. And so in my mental mind, I'll go, oh, there's $1 million worth of cash that we can find right there. What if we build systems around referrals, right? So next, you do a lot of advertising, marketing, promotion. Yeah, we run magazine ads. Great. So what are roughly you spending on magazine ads? You know, we might spend about $20,000, $30,000 or more on a publication. Oh, great. So do you know how much business you get from those magazine ads? No, not really. But I know from an awareness point of view, people are obviously seeing us. I'm sure we are getting some sort of business. So you're unable to track the business that comes from that investment. Yeah. So wouldn't it be cool if you could actually track the results? Because sometimes, what if that ad isn't even working for you, right? It's like, yeah, what would happen if that is not working for me? Well, you know, obviously we'd have to think about how we're advertising. Great. So do you do any online advertising like Google AdWords or Facebook? Yeah, we've tried Facebook. Facebook kind of didn't work for us. Really? So tell me about that. When you say Facebook didn't work, what happened in that strategy? Well, we hired this company. They came in, said they'd get us leads. They ran some Facebook ads, but we just didn't get, you know, we got some leads, but we just didn't get any great leads. Oh, so great leads. So didn't get any great leads. So what, you've just discounted that strategy. It's no longer something that you're looking to pursue as an opportunity to generate clients. Because I know that in your market, there are businesses that are running ads on Facebook and they're getting leads, they're getting clients. So maybe that didn't work for you, but it might be worthwhile something that you need to take into consideration down the track. Would you agree? And they go, yeah, I think, yeah, we need to look at that. We need to look at all our options, right? Great. So tell me where you advertise. AdWords, Facebook, newspaper, magazine, TV, radio, the Google Display Network, right? Instagram, Facebook, what do you want to do? Where are you advertising? Where are you promoting? Where are you attracting clients? Do you know roughly how many clients you attract in the business on a month-to-month basis? No, I don't. Do you know roughly how many people visit your website in your business? No, I don't. If you were to think about your website right now, think about, obviously you are getting people coming along. They're seeing what you do because you are online, right? If you're getting these types of people coming to your website, right? How much business do you think you're getting from your website? Just give me a rough idea of approximately what you think you're getting from your website. Now, when I've asked this particular question, oftentimes people will say, we get, I'd say with 10%, I'd say 10% of our business. Some people might go as high as 20% of their business. Some people might say 30% of their business. So sometimes when something gives you that arbitrary figure of 10%, so okay, so let's look at 10%. What's 10% worth to your business? Just approximately, rough idea. 100 grand, 300 grand, 400 grand, $1 million. And they'll go, oh, it's like $300,000. So you're getting $300,000 cash because of your website. That's pretty cool, right? How does that make you feel? Now, my big question is, how much did you spend on that website? And could it be better? What could we get if we actually made it easy for people to engage us on that site? Because if we're getting 10% revenue and that's 300 grand worth of stuff, what could we do? What could we do to improve the capability of attracting those customers and engaging in the sales process? So right now, how important is the internet to you? Well, it's super important to me. Great, tell me about it. Tell me why. Well, that's where all the customers are. That's where all they live. So now I'm getting them thinking as to why the internet marketing stuff is so important. right? How important is it for you to advertise and to promote your business in the market to attract clients? Something that you highly, something that's really super high, it's super important, or it's a pain in the ass because it's a cost of doing business. No, we need to market, we need to advertise, you know, we need to look at ways of engaging customers, because if we didn't do that, we would be in a much worse place, right? So some people need to hear that in their head, right? When they go through a process to go, yeah, no, it's really important for us to be running ads, to run advertising, right? To do marketing. How important is your marketing, right? How active you are. Do you have a strategic plan in place to acquire customers? Do you have that plan? Does everybody in the company know that plan, and they have KPIs and processes to make sure that they're performing to get those outcomes and those objectives? Do you have that structure in place? No, we don't do that. If you were to have something like that, what do you think would happen, right? They go, well, if we did have the plan and the structure, things would work much better. We can actually keep things accountable. We have scorecards. We're going to get much better results if we do something, right? So my question to you is, but what's happening without the plan? What do you think you're missing out on? Well, Jesus, you know, we're probably not really focused on generating the right sort of revenue, or maybe we need to pay attention more to our conversion, or maybe we need to actually focus on a whole different market that perhaps we've wanted to get into. We know that the opportunity is there, but we've actually just never got around to doing it, right? So do you have this thing that's really important to you, or that can create opportunity for you? And if you don't, what would happen if you did? And what's happening if you don't? What do you think you're missing out on, right? So these questions here, I want to know how they get customers. Then I want to talk about the sales cycle. Why does a customer buy what you have to offer? Why do they choose you and go instead of go to a competitor? And they'll say things like, well, you know, we've got pretty good customer service. We're recognized in our community. We've got some awareness. They know we've been doing this for a long time, so we've got delivery. We carry the biggest range, so generally we actually attract customers with the biggest range. And we're pretty good price point. We're very competitive on price. We have great customer service. Okay, great. So what instigates somebody to buy the product? I've never really thought about that. So let's go through the buyer's journey. What are the reasons why people buy this thing, right? Or buy this service, or buy this thing? Well, you know, they're buying our plumbing services, or they're buying our roofing services because it's got to a point where they need to fix their roof. Yeah, it's actually probably gone past the point where they need to fix the roof, so they're putting off. So a lot of people put that off because it's a major purchase, right? For some people, it's an emergency. They've seen a collapse, or something's broken and they need to get it fixed, right? For some people, they want to invest and make sure their home is protected, and they want to add some value. So by putting it on a new roof, makes the house look better. Protecting the asset, and more importantly, makes it look nice and clean, more attractive for sale. Like if we listed all the reasons to why people buy, then my next question is, does your marketing reflect, or do your offers reflect how people buy? And most people will go, I don't think so, right? Well, great. What do you think if you reflected your campaigns more in the way people buy? What do you think is going to happen to your sales? Wow, Jesus, I've never thought about that. John, these are really good questions. We would just start to fly, right? We would just start to fly, yeah? This would be awesome, right? So great, let's just put that aside. Right now, we don't know the buyer's journey. Now we do know the buyer's journey. And if we did have a buyer's journey, we would probably get better results, right? So my question is, great, so how do they come to you? Well, they'll pick up the phone, or they'll find us in Yellow Pages, or they'll find us on the web, on Google, or they will know somebody, or they've known us before. Great. And so what happens when they inquire? How do you help them? Do they buy on the spot? Do you have to provide them some information? What does it take to get from the time they inquire to the time they purchase? Roughly how much time, right? And they might say, well, it takes a couple of days, or they might say it takes a couple of weeks, or, hey, good question, John, I never really thought about this. You know what, when I think about it, it probably takes about 3 or 4 weeks to actually, from the time they inquire to the time they buy. Wow, that's interesting. What are you doing right now to compress that cycle? Do you have a strategy in place to make that a shorter buying cycle, or are you happy with that cycle? Well, you know, we always want to improve that. Okay, great. Okay. So if I were to send you 10 customers, how many of those customers would buy your product or service? Well, out of 10, we'd probably close at least 1 or 2 in 10. Now, if it was me, the business owner, we'd probably closing 5 in 10, right? So roughly, what is an average customer worth to you? How much do they spend on your product or service? $1,000, $10,000, $15,000, right? Great. So great. So for every 10 customers, you'd make 2 sales. That's 30 grand, right? But the problem is 8 customers didn't buy. What happens to the people who didn't buy? Where do they go, right? Well, they buy from somebody else, or they're a tire kicker, or, okay, great. How do you know that? Like, do you actually follow up and have the stats of exactly what they did? They didn't buy the roof, so they decided, no, they're never going to go ahead. No, that you're too expensive. We're going somewhere else. No, we decided to go with somebody else. How do you know? Oh, we don't, right? But if you were to know, what difference would that make? Well, Jesus, if we were to know, it would make it a lot easier for us to improve what we're doing, get better conversions. Now, notice this, that I'm not telling him, I'm asking him, and he's feeding this back, or her. I'm asking them, right? And they're feeding, well, this, you know, I'm going to ask a question, you know, and they go, well, I don't know. When somebody says to you, I don't know, just ask the question. So, well, what if we were to know? What if we were to guess, right? What if we were to know? Allow them to guess, right? Allow them to engage in this communication, right? So understand that I want to know a little bit about the business, how they acquire customers, how a customer comes to know them, what they're spending on marketing and advertising, what is a customer worth to them, what is the buyer's journey, what is the sales cycle, what is the conversion rate. And just by asking these sorts of questions, I'm opening up the client to knowing the business a lot better. But what I'm also doing is I'm helping the customer understand their own business. I'm helping them, the customer, understand that these types of questions, this type of conversation is a conversation they normally don't have very often, right? And it's actually a very interesting conversation to them, because now they're starting to realize that, hey, well, you know, I haven't really thought about my business in this way. These are really good questions. And what it does is, for you, you build amazing, valuable rapport. Amazing, valuable rapport in these questions, right? I want to talk about margin. Now I want to talk about price. I want to talk about revenue. I'll ask them. So, you know, if you looked over the last 3 years, have you been growing? Have you been static, or are you declining? Which of these 3 that's going on for you? Well, we've been growing, or no, we've kind of been plateauing out. Okay, great. So, you know, from where you are right now, obviously, what's the ultimate goal over the next, you know, let's say 12 months? I mean, if we're sitting here and we're in a declining market, naturally we want to fix that somehow. Yeah. Yeah. So if you were to say, hey, from where we are now to where we want to be in 12 months, revenue-wise, percentage-wise, what do you believe that growth rate should be for you? And more importantly, what do you think is a must for you? Well, we should have a 30%. Now, we ultimately, I want to see that we can improve our business opportunity by more than 30% this year. So 1/3 more revenue this year than we did last year. Interesting. So just to give you an idea of what 30% is, what does 30% represent? What does 30% represent to you, percentage-wise, revenue-wise? Just approximately, and I'll go $1 million. Great, so you're a $3 million business and you want to become a $4 million business, right? You want to add another $1 million revenue. My big question is, why that number? Why is that important? Because it's important, then obviously the idea would be to go for it. But if it's not important, then it's just an arbitrary number. So I'd love to know what the real number is, right? No, it's really important. The reason why is we want to expand, we want to grow, we want to hire, we need to invest in our product category, extend line. These are all the reasons why that's important. So if you didn't get the extra $1 million in revenue, what would happen? You're having this conversation in 12 months' time, you look at the revenue and we're not there. We don't get that revenue. What conversation are you going to have with yourself? How are you going to feel about it for starters? Oh, I'm going to be pretty pissed off, right? Why are you going to be pissed off, right? Well, because we didn't hit the target, and at the end of the day, it's like another year goes by and we're not moving in the direction we really want to move in. And that kind of sucks, doesn't it? Yes, it does. It does suck, right? I want them to feel a little bit of pain, right? Great. So at the end of the day, the idea is you got to go for it, yeah? So my big question is, what's holding you back? What's stopping you from hitting that outcome next to me? Because this is $1 million worth of revenue over and above what you're already doing. So my question is, what marketing in place do you have to get that extra $100,000 or $80,000 a month in extra revenue? What are you doing over and above what you're doing? What's the plan? Well, we don't have one, right? Okay. So what are the bottlenecks? What's stopping you from getting that extra 80 grand? Well, you know, we need to perhaps hire some more salespeople. We need to increase our lead generation. We need to improve our conversion rates. We can't handle, you know, we can't handle that business. Okay, if we can't handle 80 grand a month, what can we handle? We can handle 50 grand a month. Great. Well, that's $600,000 of revenue. That's 60% of where you want to get to. But that's because you can handle it. Now, my question is, how important or how badly do you want to get the 600 grand? And they go, I want to get this real bad, right? Well, great. So here's the turning point in the question process. I sit down with a lot of people like you, Rashida, talking about your business. And I've asked these questions, and I hope these questions have been really helpful to you, by the way. How's this been going for you? Oh, this has been fascinating. It's an amazing conversation. Great. Well, look, it's really cool because we've come up with a couple of different scenarios here. But one of the things that I do is I talk to people like you all the time, and I talk about this concept of achieving those outcomes. Essentially, in our business, we kind of charge people to do that sort of stuff. But is it okay if I make a suggestion? What if we actually do is sit down and devise a plan or a strategy that actually bridges the gap from where you are now to actually hitting that outcome? Now, I'm not going to ask you to buy that plan or ask you to invest any money in what I have to offer, but at least you're going to have a structure or a process and something visible to actually attain that outcome. And so that's something that I do all the time with the business people we do. But ultimately, I'm more than happy to sit down. You've been very generous. You've been very kind with all the information you provided. What if we actually sat down and worked through that plan? And at the end of that, you can take that plan and go and apply, or we may be able to work together. What do you think about that? Every time I've asked that question, it is a 100% conversion rate to sitting down and say, yeah, let's do this, right? It's 100% where I've offered it in that way. It's 100% where somebody's gone, you know what? That's a great idea. These are great questions. Oftentimes never look at my business strategically. Is it worth sitting down, looking at a plan that's going to bridge a gap from where we are to where we want to be? At the end of that, I'm going to hand over that plan. No questions asked. Or if you like the idea of your plan, then maybe we can explore the idea of working together and hitting that outcome and making that a reality for your business. Are you cool with that? 100% of the time I've made that offer, it's a yes. 100% of the time, in the way that I've just structured it for you, 100% of the time when I've made that offer, they've gone yes. And then I'm going to walk myself into a very powerful situation because I've already broken the ice. I've already built the rapport. I've already had some value in the question time. Now I can go deeper and go, hey, let's get real about what this looks like. And then what if we were, so if we were to put this in place, let's look at best case scenario, let's look at worst case scenario. If we didn't hit 1 million and we got 500,000, we'll still be happy. Absolutely. Is it worth chasing half of that? Yes. Is it worth chasing 1/3 of that? Yes. So if we can look at an ROI situation where your investment is this and your ROI is that, would that make you happy? Absolutely. Great. No brainer, right? No, we want to make this a no-brainer sale. Right now in Champions, we've got a few of our consulting champions that are actually converting at 100% right now using this structure and strategy that I'm sharing with you. They're closing 100% of their deals by having this questioning process. And then what they're doing is they're sitting down and saying, look, we don't have this right now, but if we were to have this right now, what do you think will be the difference? And I go, well, the difference is going to be we're going to make the results happen. That's awesome. Great. So what do you think we should do? Where do you think we should go to from here? Should we do this now or should we do this later? Oh, no, John, we should do this now. Well, great. Well, let's make it easy for you. If I make it easy for you, then we're going to do this. Yes? Yeah, let's do it. Great. So here's how we make it easy for you. It is a very soft and very subtle way to actually walk a client through asking some questions to understand their business and how it works, going through the place of presenting the idea of, hey, well, let's look at the possibility of putting this, making this work. And then from there, say, what do you want to do? We've got a plan here. Plan A is let's go for it. Plan B is let's get stuck and stay where we are. What do you want to do? No, I want to go for it, right? Okay. Now, the question I'm going to ask you, I don't need an answer, but whose plan is it? Is it my plan or is it their plan? Because if it's their plan, they are more likely to buy their plan than they are likely to buy your plan, right? They want to buy their plan. It's going to be hard to say no to their own plan. I've just said no to $1 million or no to $600,000 or no to $300,000, 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month. I've said no. That's going to hurt because people don't want to jump back on what they say they want. They want to jump into it. And so from there, I want to remind them, hey, remember we talked about the fact that you actually want to do this and why you want to do it? Yeah, has anything changed? I don't know. We want to do this. Well, great. Let's do it, right? Let's take the moves and make this happen. Let's work together, right? this is one of the easiest ways to using questions to allow yourself to step into a sales process. Now, I know that I've been asking, by the way, I've been doing this for 34 years. It's a long time to ask lots of questions, but there was a moment in one of my agencies where I actually got to have this conversation with about 5,000 people over an 8-year, 9-year journey. Over an 8 to 9 year journey, I got to have this type of conversation and an insight into thousands of businesses. And the cool part about that is that I found that most businesses in certain categories kind of operate the same way. They kind of make the same mistakes. They're very predictable in a lot of ways. So oftentimes when you ask a question, especially if you're going into a niche, right? When you go into a niche, what happens is you start to learn how business works. So my conversations and my questions get better because I have that understanding and that knowledge. So I can go right in and say, look, most of the people I talk to, and I'll use things like, hey, let's say ABC company was one of the biggest companies in the market. So I was talking to the CEO of ABC company the other day, a company that is in their market they know, and they know who ABC company is, and they might even know the CEO of that company. So I was talking the other day, and I was asking exactly the same sort of questions. And one of the things that came up is this thing that happens in the market all the time that really ticked them off. Does it happen to you? And they go, how did you know that, right? Well, after talking to a whole bunch of you guys, I know perhaps more than what you know about this market. The more you take the understanding route, the more you get into the heads and the minds of the people you work with or that you want to work with, the more you're going to get results for what you do. So hopefully this has been an interesting session for you. What I'd love to do is, one, what is the biggest takeaway from what I've shared in this process so far? We've got a whole bunch of people here on this call. What is the thing that you've taken away? What's the biggest takeaway? Just type in the chat. What's the biggest takeaway you've had from this session? So in marketing customers who have weak lead gen on their site, do you recommend reaching out to prospects with no Facebook pixel, proof of Google ads, or is it better to go for prospects who are already running paid ads? Always go to people who run paid traffic, Rashida. If you're in the automation game, then you want paid traffic for your automations. Rashida, so the plan is you just pitched is the paid strategy call. You can get paid to do the strategy call. Yes, you can. You can be paid for that service, Rashida, if you ask for the paid. Mark says, being strategic and building rapport before talking about our offers. Yes, Mark, absolutely. Good takeaway. Any other takeaways that you've had if you've been listening to this conversation? What are the takeaways? They're more likely to buy their own plan. Yeah, they are more likely to buy their own plan. If you stick a plan in front of them and it's not relevant to them, then they're not going to buy, right? So yes, they are, John, they're going to buy their own plan, right? It's their plan with their numbers. They can't argue with that. That's right. You can argue with my numbers, but I can't argue with your numbers. If they're my if they own their numbers, they're like, well, okay, these are my numbers. I can't argue with my numbers. So absolutely, right? It's their plan, right? They close the deal themselves. Felix, thank you for saying that. That is exactly right. They close the deal for themselves. You don't have to do anything. You're just allowing them to step into it, right? And you're doing it in such a subtle way that's just kind of natural. There's no pressure. There's no real big thing like say, hey, look, we've got the plan here. What do you think we should do with this plan? I think we need to implement it. Great. Is it okay if I walk you through how we can work together to implement the plan? Would that be cool? Yes, absolutely. I want to do that. Great. Okay. So here's how we work together. Now, I won't, when we work together, I'm not going to talk about the price. This is what we do. We've got our team, we've got our onboarding process, we're going to put the plan in place, we've got to put some strategy in place. We need some time to develop the strategy. We need some onboarding and we need some implementation and some setups. These are things we need to do. So I guess what we got to do, where do you think we should go to from here? And they go, oh, well, how much is it all going to cost? Well, great. Well, look, you look at $1 million return or rate of return. It would be presumptuous of me to charge you $100,000. But what if I made it easy for you? Is it okay if I make it easy for you? Oh yeah, John, absolutely. Make it easy for me. Great, right? Well, our fees start at this, right? We need a 10 grand setup fee to get all this set up. It's $5 grand a month for the service. At the end of the day, we're trying to bring in an extra 50 to 100 grand cash per month in the business. Is that okay with you? What do you think we should do? Where do you think we should go to from now? Yeah, that's no brainer at all. $5 grand per month, 10 grand setup. That's cool. Great. So is it okay if we get this thing rocking and rolling right now? Yep. It can happen as easily as that, right? So Chris says, you're selling them their plan and then the sale is easy. Yes. They close the deal themselves. Any other takeaways from what I've just shared in the strategy of questioning? Right, because I love finding out about business. By the way, most of these answers or most of these questions, the answer to these questions, I can Google a lot of these answers, but I don't want to Google. I want to hear them from the horse's mouth, their words, and I want to repeat their words back to them. That's why I want to have this idea that I'm curious. The more people that, so this is the thing, the more people you talk to in business at this level, the smarter you become to other business people. The more you understand, you know, because you can say, look, from my experience, I've talked to a whole bunch of people and this is what I found. What have you found? Wow, that's really interesting, right? Or I found the same sort of thing. Or yeah, oh, I didn't realize that was an issue, right? The other thing that if I want to go into a niche, the thing that I do is there's this small, tiny website that nobody seems to be able to find. It's called Amazon, right? And on Amazon, especially in the book section, they have bestsellers. You have the Amazon bestsellers, right? And so in the bestseller market, there's generally, I could find books written about an industry. And so I will go top 5 books for whatever industry. You know, top 5 books to run an accounting practice, top 5 books to run a pharmaceutical company, top 5 books to run a best architect agency. There's going to be books that are written on the industry. And the people who wrote those books are generally people who've had experience in those businesses. They've either run those businesses themselves, or they've consulted to those businesses, or they've developed products and services for those businesses. So they've done all the research on the industry. They've asked all the questions. They've done all the interviews. They've even approached people in the market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the top 5 books in the market. And the first thing, I'm not going to buy the top 5 books. I'm just going to look at the top 5 books, right? I'm going to look at them, look at the table of contents. And the table of contents will give you an idea of what the industry is interested in, right? So you can get a gauge for where people are at, right? So me being me, if I really wanted to dive deep, I would read all the top 5 books. But I kind of only need to read the top 2. But I would read all top 5. And the reason why I'll read all top 5 is once I've read the top 5 books in any industry and how to run the industry, I will know more than most people who are in the industry who'd been there for more than 20 years. Because I will have covered all the ground of knowledge in reading that book, and I would have covered things that most people have forgotten in the industry. So it will make me 1% smarter than anybody else. I read this the other day, and this is what I've heard, right? I read this today, and this is what I've heard, yeah? And so that's what I'm doing, right? That's where I'm heading to. Yeah. So understand that what we want to do is maximize the opportunity to convert the sale. And the best way to do that is to understand the industry and take this planning structure away. I'm happy to take a question, but one of the things that I also understand right now in business is we need to have the best shop front window available to the market to see us. We need to be more visible. And right now our websites and things need to change. Our search engine optimization to websites need to change. All of that needs to change right now. And the reason it needs to change is because times have changed. Businesses are going out of business and they're not going to be able to be contacted anymore. But those who are in business need to adapt their message. And the area that they need to work on is how they represent themselves online. And the cornerstone of all their marketing, of all their placing, is going to be their websites. So right now, mobile websites, big business. Mobile apps, big business. General websites, big business, because we need to make it easy for people to navigate and buy. And most websites right now are wrong. So what I'm doing in a few weeks' time is, and I'm going to share my screen with you. What I'm doing in a few weeks' time is I'm running this intensive, right? This is a website sales intensive. And again, we are doing what we call a web event for good, where we're raising money for causes for sustainability projects. So I'm going to share with you how to actually sell websites at much higher prices. We're using a piece of software called My Web Audit. Clifford Alameda, who runs My Web Audit, it's an amazing piece of software. It literally does analysis. It builds pitch decks and presentations. It gives you structure, and it also shows people why they need to change what they're doing. And this opens a door to actually redesigning or redoing their message to the marketplace. So we're doing a web intensive on the 18th of June. It's a Thursday from 9 a.m. PST. And we're going to be going through where people need to change their sites, why they need to change them, more importantly, how to get them to spend a lot more money on their digital footprint, on their digital platform in the market. So if you're looking, if you want to sell sites at 10, 20, 30, 50, at 100 grand, this is the intensive you want to be at. If you're looking to acquire clients, if you're SEO, AdWords, and your clients need to reestablish their landing pages, their sites, so that their campaigns can run better, you want to be on this intensive. So it is a 4-hour web intensive. It's $97 for a ticket. The ticket is going to support 3 sustainable projects. 3 families are going to have a water tap installed for fresh, clean drinking water plumbed into their homes. 3 homes are going to have water taps plumbed into their homes for every ticket that is generated. We're going to pay for the education of 1 child for an entire year. When we did the last Web for Good, 134 children have had their education paid for the next year from those who attended the last event. More than 1,500 families were impacted. We gave them solar lamps for their homes, and we also helped 650 women have vocational and jobs training, skills training, so they can gain independence. So we are going to do another great event for good, and I'm going to provide you with recordings, trainings, and also ways and strategies to maximize your opportunity to generate clients, more importantly, to sell websites at higher prices. So if this is something you're interested in with strategy and structure, then I highly encourage you to go to Website Sales Intensive, websitesalesintensive.com. Grab your ticket for good. We're going to put you into a private chat group, and also we're going to make sure you have access to some trainings that we're going to be placing in there, and also all these recordings will be provided to you as well. So this is happening on the 18th of June, 9 a.m. PST, $97 a ticket. Go to websitesalesintensive.com and you'll get some access to some really cool stuff when you join. So with that, I want to thank you for being here. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got. A few people are here. I'm going to open up the chats. Any questions? Anything I can help you with? My role-playing client was very compliant. Never any difficult clients. Brian, if I'm taking that curiosity approach at the very beginning, no, I've never had anybody difficult. If I have somebody, so I have this thing that's called the no arseholes policy. I don't talk to arseholes, right? So if somebody is adversarial, then I go, hey, look, this is a view. Really appreciate your time. Nice meeting you. I'm out. Bye. I'm out, right? But most people are nice people, Brian. Most people are nice. Most people care. This is something that where you're taking an interest in them. If you are genuinely taking an interest in them, they're going to genuinely take an interest in you, Brian. So yes. So Chris, if they say they just hired someone to do this and like to give them a chance, then fine, give them a chance, right? But maybe there's something else. When you say that means you've got, are they doing everything, or are they just doing AdWords? If you're a Facebook guy, then you want to sell Facebook to a guy that's running AdWords, right? Because Facebook and AdWords are 2 different things. So if you're an SEO guy and they're running paid traffic, then be the SEO guy. Offer them SEO. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if they've hired somebody else. If they've hired somebody else to do everything, which is highly unlikely, Chris, then you've got an in. Those people need support. They need help. So hopefully that answers your questions. In this intro call, usually 15-minute or longer, that seemed very detailed for a quick 15-minute intro call. This is just a casual conversation. If I do a 15-minute intro call for somebody, for me, I'll stop at the 15-minute mark. Say, hey, look, I know we're at the 15-minute mark. Would you like to continue? And most people say, yeah, I've got time. And they'll continue on. That's how you get. The more time you spend, the more time they're on the phone, Rashida, the more chance you've got of generating sale. For the website sales intensive, will there be a fulfillment resource provider? Absolutely. Eric Severance, thank you very much. The resource partner that we provide is actually a conversion-based resource partner. So they only design for conversion. So yes, we are going to be introducing you to a resource partner that delivers the most amazing sites that convert for clients. That will solve your problem big time, and the investment is very small, but your profit margins are going to be huge. So to answer your question, Eric, absolutely. How do you handle when the other person is a salesperson? Well, Rashida, you shouldn't be talking to a salesperson. You should be talking to a business owner. You're talking to the wrong person if you're talking to a salesperson. This is not a conversation I have with salespeople. Remember, I did 9 years of these types of conversations with CEOs, managing directors, chairmen, presidents of companies. I do not have these conversations with salespeople or with marketing people. Only owners, because they're the people who made the decisions, and they're the people I wanted to get to know. So they're the people you want to think about. So yes, to answer the question, only business owners. So the business owner being skillful on what you are asking. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Rashida, but anyway. So yes. So with that, hopefully we'll see you in the website sales intensive, because this is going to be the most comprehensive training on engaging clients for websites. How often do they ask for a guarantee? Brian, never. Nobody has ever asked me for a guarantee, Brian. And the reason why nobody's asked me for a guarantee is because they're more interested in getting the project done than interested in what if this project fails. If somebody's asking you a guarantee, you've raised that question, you've put that doubt in their mind. You've done something or said something that they want a guarantee on. So just to answer that question, Brian, the only reason a guarantee comes up is because you made them doubt your capability. If you make them doubt your capability, then of course they're going to talk about what's our guarantee, right? If you go in leading with a guarantee and a customer buys you on a guarantee, that's a customer that I don't want to do business with. Because if they're buying me on a guarantee, if that's the reason why they're making this sales decision, not on the value proposition, I don't really want to work with people like that. You know, I make sure if anybody says, hey, if you're going to buy this on the guarantee, don't buy it on the guarantee. If that's what you think, if that's what you want, don't buy it on that. John, thank you for grabbing that ticket. Awesome, thank you. We are going to be running this on the 18th of June. So if you want to be part of this, and like I said, the $97 is a ticket for good. Clarification, how to handle a business owner who is reluctant with sharing detailed revenue numbers. Not a single person I've spoken to, Rashida, in that format, if you go watch this recording, has been reluctant. They actually, you'll be surprised. People will tell you how much they earn. People will tell you so many amazing things when you start opening up and taking an interest in what they do. If they're reluctant to share, what I tend to do is I ask for approximations. Look, I get it. You want to keep your numbers private. That's fine. But if we look at a range, is it this between this range and this range? Between this range and this range? Oh, roughly this range. Now, generally, when you go into that range and you say, great, let's focus on that range, I go, well, no, actually, it's this number here. Great. Then they're going to give you an accurate number. I've sat down, like public companies, like big companies, they have to publish their revenue. They have to publish their revenue. So to ask them how much revenue you generated, they'll tell you, we did 30 million, we did 100 million, we did $1 billion worth of sales last year, right? Because that's public knowledge. Small businesses, well, I don't want to tell you what that is. Well, you're too small for me. I can't help you, right? If I'm doing them over the phone, yeah, I do record them. Absolutely. Absolutely. So my targets are $2 to $20 million companies. So the difference is, Rashida, the conversation at the $2 million mark and the conversation at the $20 million mark, the $20 million company will invest more in value. The $2 million company, depending on what your charge out rates are going to make they're going to ask questions about the investment, right? So $2 million companies, they'll agree to spend 30 grand, 20 grand, that's okay. You go to them with a 50 to 100 grand proposition, now they're starting to think, because that's, you know, that's coming into 5% of their revenue, right? Sorry, that's a $2 million company, yeah. 10% is 200,000, coming at 50,000, you're coming in at 2.5%. 2.5%, that's a consideration of revenue. So you've got to think about that. So with that, I want to say thank you. I look forward to seeing you on the next training. We're going to be here same time, same bad channel tomorrow at 4 p.m. PST, talking about another topic. If you want to, go and jump into the website salesintensive.com. Go and grab your ticket for good. This is going to be a great session. To me, I think right now, booming business right now, mobiles. Mobile phones, mobile websites, massive booming business, and fixing your website and the market, super, super important, super important. So with that, I want to thank you for being here. Jump into websitesalesintensive.com, go and grab your ticket. I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Take care, everybody.